how you been anyway?
Yeah, it's been a while, but there's never a dull moment in this industry.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, I know you're based in Phoenix. So how are things down there since the lockdown?
It's been interesting. I mean, everything has been hunkered down. I don't think it's been as strict as other states, but still everybody's been pretty much quarantined into their homes. So it's been a huge adjustment for everybody.
Oh, wow. And how
Yeah.
long have you guys been in lockdown there?
Probably about a solid month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for giving us a quick update. So I know you and I have known each other for many years, although we
Yeah.
haven't been in touch until fairly recently.
Sure.
But tell us a little bit about the company you work for these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've recently joined World Connection, and they're a small to medium-sized BPO established in 2011. And we have two locations in Guatemala City, which is probably our largest site, and Boise, Idaho.
Okay. And so tell us a bit about, what's happening I'm curious about what's happening in Guatemala as well with the pandemic. Are they in a similar sort of shutdown over there?
Yeah, they absolutely are. I would say that when the government had come and placed some restrictions, I mean, we were pretty proactive in terms of making sure that our employees stay safe. So before they even put out any kind of strict requirements to only being at home, right now they have restrictions in terms of curfews. So everybody has to be in their house by 3 o'clock p.m. But prior to that, we've already sent people home working from their residence.
So in both of those centres, is everybody now working from home, or do you still have some staff who need to go into the centre?
Yeah, I would say in Guatemala City we have a skeleton staff on site, only because one of our clients insisted on having some people in a more controlled environment, and so we agreed upon that, but still adhering to the curfew restrictions for Guatemala.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you guys do? Do you do inbound, outbound, or do you also handle social media interactions?
We do, yeah, we do. We handle inbound customer service, sales, tech support. We also do some outbound sales, and we also do back office support, whether it be mailroom processing, web chat, or email.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so with everything that's going on, I mean, how has it affected the type of your customer base as well?
Yeah, I would say, when you're looking at across the portfolio, and I think of our customers twofolds. One is the clients that we are contracted to work with, and then of course their customers. So I would say because we have such a diverse portfolio of clients, I think in terms of preservation, I mean our business is doing well. Some clients definitely in hospitality have definitely reduced their volumes, but we've seen other industries and in terms of small financial loans have gone up as well. But definitely, I think everybody's been shaken up. I mean, nobody saw this coming. I mean, so drastically and so soon. But we're slowly adapting. But more importantly, getting some of our clients used to um, a work-at-home model.
Okay. And,
Yeah.
and before the pandemic hit, I mean, did you ever have it? Did you have any staff working from home, or is it pretty much you've had to make the transition, from zero to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we went from zero to where we are today, but luckily we had already looked into work at home options, and by a fluke, our IT team was already testing some machines to be able to figure out how do we remotely uh, support our PCs. So from a tech support perspective, they had already set up kind of the skeletons and the infrastructure to be able to support remote workers. And so when all of this ruling came and these restrictions came, we were able to mobilize pretty quickly.
Oh, that's really good. So
Yeah.
so what? So how quickly did the whole transition take them?
Yeah, I would say that we started testing at the beginning of the week. I would say by from a Monday to a Thursday, by the end of Thursday, we had 100% of our folks work at home.
Wow. And do you provide them with all the equipment as well, or do some of your staff actually have their own, laptops or PCs they're using?
Yeah, right now the reason why we were able to mobilize so quickly is we assigned our own equipment, our company equipment to our agents, so they were able to take home all of the equipment that was needed to do their jobs. it also helped us ensure that the same security protocols were on our machines. And so there really was no additional setup outside of making sure that we can test connectivity in the VPN.
Interesting. So I
Yeah.
guess it must have looked kind of interesting with, all your employees walking out with computers under their arms and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was an interesting sight indeed, but I think everybody did a brilliant job in terms of coming together, working with us to make sure that we test correctly. Of the people that didn't have internet connections, they quickly called their providers and got them set up within a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious as well with this rapid shift. I mean, what were the key challenges you guys had to overcome?
Yeah, I would say several. I mean, I think our biggest key challenges was to really change everybody's mindset from moving to a brick and mortar where you see your supervisors, you see your colleagues every single day. And then how does that translate successfully into a work at home model? And so a lot of it was very unstructured in the very beginning. So we had to mobilize very quickly to be able to now still build in the same structures we had on site in a work at home model, just more so. So I think part of it was a transitioning of now being alone and working at home. And from a technology stack perspective, we were also quickly looking at and vetting through some additional technology requirements, especially for PCI, because I don't think anybody's really solved for the whole PCI compliance piece from a physical environment perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And how now, you nicely described some of the challenges. How are you dealing with, or are you managing your staff these days then?
Yeah, I would say that we've translated a lot of the structure that we've had on site and built around a little bit more additional rigor around it. So obviously in a work at home site, you have to have more touch bases with your teams. We're getting people more used to using Teams and chat platforms where they didn't have to have it before. And we're utilizing WhatsApp, Skype, Teams, Zoom, to have regular cadence of one-on-ones, team meetings. So a lot of it, what we used to do on site, we're just kind of doubling and tripling those efforts, and now through digital.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what about, in a traditional contact center, it's relatively easy to keep staff motivated because you can go around, you can see when they're
Sure.
having a bad day, a bad call. How are you keeping staff actually motivated with all the communication tools that you're using?
Yeah, I would say, it's never easy, and I'm not going to claim that we do it well, but I think some of the things that we used to do on site, we're trying to figure out how to translate it best in the home environment. And so we still run virtual contests. Teams still have lunch, and what we've done is we've ordered lunch for people to be delivered to their homes, and so they can do a virtual, team lunch together. We still continue to have prizes and raffles. Mhm.
So how can you just describe some of the mechanics about some of the competitions that you're still running then, but albeit from, with staff working remotely?
Yeah, sure. I would say that, especially in our sales environments, they still have to reach their KPIs. And so, they still every single day, every single week, they have some kind of creative contest in terms of how many sales you make. And it's still celebrated and it's still communicated out through a digital forum on productivity and who's the winners, and you celebrate it. I think it's just, rather than hearing and seeing the hype, you just kind of have to physically be on the platforms to kind of see and be more, to be able to see kind of those I would say accomplishments for the teams. And now you have to make the invisible visible now. And so everything that you're kind of seeing on screen, now you have to verbalize in meetings. And so we're celebrating more of these successes in our forums. So whether it be in our supervisor-only meetings, whether it be in our leadership meetings, managers on up, or only the director meetings, we're constantly making sure that we connect the dots and continue to recognize and celebrate employees. We do blast emails to recognize people's performance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really good. And one of the biggest challenges that we all face when we work from home these days is the background noise and distractions and things like that. How do you what sort of advice do you give to your staff to try and minimize that? I mean, what sort of things do you have in place to help with that?
Yeah, I would say one of the requirements that we're working towards, because it was such a quick deployment, now that we've had a little bit of time between then and now, is making sure that our agents identify a quiet space. Now, many of them don't have necessarily a dedicated space, and so we're really working with the individual agents, whether they have daycare issues or pets, really kind of minimizing the noise and making sure that they at least have a place where they can close the door and really kind of concentrate on the work. So we're still working out a lot of the mechanics, but I would say by and large, a majority of our agents have been very successful in terms of making sure that they have a quiet environment to work with, um, and try to kind of get their heads around what this new environment means for them.
Do you foresee that maybe when things get back to some level of normality, you might continue on with some agents working from home, or do you think you'll bring them all back to a centralized center, or is that still under discussion?
Yeah, I would say it's still under discussion. I mean, we definitely have some of our clients that aren't necessarily sold or bought off on this whole, work at home model. And so definitely those clients will want to bring back the folks in center. And obviously by seeing, by being active, by interacting with people on a daily basis, just our operating model is much more conducive to the brick and model. But I would say we're always going to have a certain percentage of our staff to augment what we do have with a work at home model, because then it allows us to kind of expand our capabilities and our staffing and recruitment.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
And what about typically team leaders or supervisors in the contact center? They're always by their team. They're walking around, or they're
Yeah.
monitoring, or they're listening to calls. How are you keeping those folks motivated, and how are they working?
Yeah, I would say that, before they would have certain end goals. Well, now we've come together and worked with our team leads and our managers to come up with a much more rigid structure. So every single day by certain time frames, they have to have certain things done, or they report in, twice a day on what they've been doing. So I would say that the rigor is I would say much more in place for them. Now from, I would say morale and capabilities perspective, I would say a lot of it is, the biggest thing is just making sure that we stay connected with our people and that they know, from the top down, what's going on every single day, what are the types of things that we should know, sharing information across clients, and just making sure that that there just isn't a whole day that they go without any kind of type of communication, whether it be from their direct supervisors or managers or from the executive team.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Again, talking about traditional contact center where you've got everybody huddled together, it's relatively easy for an agent to put their hand up and say, I need some help with this call. I've got, this particular challenge. How are you doing it with work from home agents?
Yeah, I would say we've really kind of now transitioned our team leads and our supervisors to really work as kind of a command central. And so they have several monitors up within their workstation. And now rather than seeing a hand go up or seeing somebody stand up, you have to really be diligent in terms of looking at your screens and making sure if somebody's waving at you, somebody's notifying you, somebody's giving you alert, that you're quickly on top of those situations. We're also working with other technology platforms where, again, it gives us real-time alerts in terms of any kind of anomalies that we have, especially in terms of performance as well. So we're trying to figure out how to translate operating into a brick and mortar to a work at home that is much more condensed, real time, and leveraging all of our digital tools.
Interesting times for sure for all of us,
Yeah.
isn't it? With
Yeah.
this thing, and I guess you and all your leadership team are working from home as well.
Yes, we are. Hmm.
Excellent. How are you coping?
Well, I normally work in like big, large centers, and of course, you get your energy and from the people, and I always learn so much as I'm walking around, and so this is a bit of a transition. But I would say that having video conferences where you can still see people's faces and still see what's going on and their reactions really does help make sure that we stay connected as an organization and as a team. So I think it takes a bit of a adjustment. I think it takes a lot of best practices sharing and a lot of personal discipline to be able to make sure that we still hit our goals and our targets, even in this pretty dramatically different environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And any last parting tips for anybody watching this on maybe some lessons or tips that you can share about making that rapid transition to work from home?
Yeah, I would say, never take anything for granted. Just because you put something out there in terms of overall structure or guidelines, you have to make sure to audit and check to make sure that those concepts get anchored, because it's too easy for us to say and put out orders and instructions, to 600-700 people, and then we just expect people to follow it. And so now we've had to come back to saying, okay, what are those audit things in place to make sure that what we need to happen sufficiently gets anchored into kind of their daily routine. And so how do we ensure that as an organization from a virtual perspective? So always check, always verify, audit your systems. That would probably be the one bit of advice I would offer people.
Excellent. Well, lots of really good advice, and it was a pleasure catching up with you again. I know we're going to see you later on this year when we run our conference, which we were originally going to hold in May, so that's been pushed back to September. So I know we're going to see you in Orlando later on this year. Thank you ever so much for your time today. You guys stay safe, and best wishes to you and your family, HUI.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, Raj.
Thank you, and I'll be in touch with you shortly. Take care.
Okay. Bye. Bye-bye.